I want to
Wow.
join you on that point of talking about Mother Sarah and Abraham and the description in Song of Songs called in Hebrew Akoti Kala and called in English my sister, my bride. Um, there's a time when Abraham enters Egypt. It's set in the early era of the Middle Kingdom period. It is stated in the narrative that because Abraham had feared that the Egyptians would take Sarah and present her to Pharaoh so that she can become one of Pharaoh's many wives, that Abraham says to her, "Say that thou art my sister," even though she is his wife. So many of Bible scholars and theologians have wrestled with this over the years so as to try to construe what's happening here. Is Abraham not trusting in God, right? Because God was with him since he made his exit from Sumer and told him wherever he goes that he will be blessed and those who curse you will be cursed. So what are you fearing? So there are some theologians that are asking themselves, well, is Abraham not listening to God? Is he fearful of the creator? Like, what's the thing here? Then there are some theologians that say, listen, we have to be realistic with all things wisdom. It's of no confusion, so to speak, that Jacob comes from Abraham, the original supplanter. Abraham says, I trust in God with all my heart, but I'm also not no fool. Egypt was a well armed place. And some people even reason in that moment that more than Abraham was fearful of what the Egyptians would attempt to do with Sarah, Abraham was more fearful of God's reprisal upon them if they dare try to do that. So that's always something to consider too that people don't think about, right? Because when you look at the character of Abraham, we say in the written text and even exemplifying the oral tradition that the character attribute that exemplifies most in Abraham is chesed, kindness, love. At its root level, genuine kindness and love is not about curating the needs of oneself, but it's always putting the needs of others before that of yours. So, on what I would call an interesting twist on the narrative, a plot twist, we shouldn't look into it that Abraham is fearful of what the Egyptians would do with her. What we should consider in my mind that he's more fearful of what the creator would do with them if they lay a hand on her. But there's also something else that Abraham is relaying subconsciously because she was his sister, not physically, but spiritually. One of the things I've come to love over the years about the Hebrew language is that everything, everyone that is given a name, that name shapes and molds who and what they are at the core essential level. So the word for brother is ak. Why? Because ak sounds good looking at a man and just saying ak. Aki sounds great. That's my ak. That's my aki. No. Ak in Hebrew denotes oneness. This is where we describe the unity of the creator, where we say echad, achad, unity, oneness. Why does Hebrew as a language choose ak to describe a person's brother? Because your brother, who is not your physical brother like your homeboy, the people you choose to be your friend should be someone that you are intellectually, morally, and spiritually at one with. That is who you should choose to be your brother. So at the base level, a brother, and by extension, a sister, because there's not a different word for sister in Hebrew, is just a feminine form of the same idea, oneness. Brother is ak, masculine. Sister is akoti, feminine. Masculine form, feminine form, same concept, oneness. So when he says of Sarah that she is my akoti kala, my sister, my bride, he's expressing two relevant truths. that this is my spiritual twin, that this is my soulmate, that this is my sister, that the unity that we have intellectually, spiritually, and morally is to truly say that we are one. And she's also his chala, his bride. And why is that remarkable? Because the term kala in Hebrew, when it is first used in the Bible, denotes completing. Hence, in the book of Genesis, chapter 2, it says, "And the heavens of the earth, yechalu, were completed." Chala came to completeness, came to perfection. So, brothers, choose your wives carefully, because the Creator entrusts that if you go out and you seek a woman to become your wife, that woman is tasked with helping to bring you to your perfection, your state and estate of perfection. Nasika Khawa, I switch it back to you.
Deeply appreciated, Nasi. Actually, as you were speaking, I thought about the idea. This was brought out in a book. I was just thinking to go get it, but I'm not going to go tear up my bookshelves for it. But there's an anthology called African Sexualities. And in it is a wonderful essay about Afrocentric and even gynocentric perspectives of sexuality, and not only as the intimacy between man and woman as this kind of single unit of one relationship or one family, but as it extends to the broader community. And this parallels thoughts and concepts that are brilliantly elucidated by Sobonfu Somé, who is most known for her wonderful book, The Spirit of Intimacy, which speaks of the third spirit that is born, not only the physical child, but the spirit of intimacy itself that is born through the wholeness of a man and a woman, and how that spirit extends throughout and benefits the entire community. So the entire community and village is invested in the relationship. Whereas in the Eurocentric paradigm, the Western paradigm, we kind of think of two grown people coming together. That's their business, that's their stuff. Leave them alone. That's what they got going on. But in the indigenous mindset, the Afrocentric mindset, the success and health of a marriage reflects the success and health of the community. And it is the success and health of the community that is contingent upon the success and health of that union. So the village mindset, as it says, it takes a village to raise a child, but indeed it takes a village even to nurture the marriage from which the strong children that will become the nation are born. And backtracking from that to this essay, it's actually an essay, Osunality. And it speaks about Osunality as a paradigm of this kind of more indigenous Afrocentric and gynocentric view of intimacy. And in this essay, there is a reference to Shir HaShirim and the very famous "My sister, my spouse, my sister, my bride" line. And the idea that in Egyptian poetry, these same dynamics are brought out, where in striking similarity to almost verbatim Shir HaShirim, there are writings of love poems in ancient Egypt where spouses are indeed called as siblings. I also, in this moment, I'm thinking of the artist Frida Kahlo, who was famously married to fellow artist Diego Rivera, and their relationship, where she so beautifully and intensely describes him as everything to her, not only her husband, but her comrade, not only her lover, but as a father to her, and even as a brother, even as her son. And as an artist, there have been these very intriguing paintings that she has made, of course, in their evocative and provocative surrealism of her husband as literally her son being born in her womb and even suckling at her breasts. And also, she has art that depicts them as sister and brother, suckling from the breasts of their mother. So it's interesting. I would never be able to know if Frida Kahlo herself had any knowledge of Torah or scripture to understand the origins of my sister, my spouse, not only in Shir HaShirim, but in the narrative of Abraham and Sarah, and even in the account of Yitzhak and Rebecca. There's an interesting parallel there. But in Egypt as well, with this idea of spouses as siblings, there's this idea that in a matriarchy, in a matrilineal concept, there's that equanimity between spouses. And the idea of my sister, my spouse is a reflection of the equanimity. It's an affirmation and validation of the equality of man and woman. And that equality is most potently visualized and conceptualized as that relationship between a brother and sister who have come from the same mother, the same source of power and wisdom, as of course the mother is the teacher. So two siblings, again, drinking from the same breasts of wisdom, the mother's wisdom, which is Torah. That is the equality of man and woman, husband and wife, that represent that wisdom in their union, as you brought out, achi, achoti, and the parallel with echad, etymologically, that unity.
Absolutely, absolutely.